So we're going to Poland, so really excited. We've obviously not been there before. We did a full recce beforehand. Fantastic hotel. Facilities are exactly what we need for the players. We obviously enter into our third week of pre-season now with the 18s and the under 21. So real good opportunity to get some good quality work together. Really nail down some of our principles and our way of working and joining up the squads from under 18s, under 21s, and obviously from a first team level to get our style of play and our methodology really nailed down with the players, and the additional time that we get to spend with them, both on and off the pitch, around the complex, around the hotel, really allows us to understand the players more, what they need, how we can develop, really build some strong relationships as a group of staff, but also as a group of players, and having the time away with each other really allows us to enhance the work we've already done initially at the training ground. Great stuff. Let's get ourselves to Poland.
Lads, all right? Sleep well?
So today, for example, we've got a double session today. So in terms of preparing for the first session, it will be the night before, making sure GPS are charged, receivers are charged, which link to the GPSs. In terms of getting ready, I've just got to make sure I've got all the pods for the players involved in our session. There's a couple of training squads here this week, so just making sure we've got the right players' pods for that. And then in terms of coming out here, make sure it's set up in the right position. So receivers have to be where they can see all the players. So you've obviously probably seen me moving them around just so I get everyone in terms of the live data. On top of that, there's warm-up, so prepping the lads for the session to the day. So today was quite an intensive day, so we did a lot of accel, decel work in the warm-up. That'll be very similar this afternoon. It'll be a bit of a lighter warm-up. And then post-session today, in between the two sessions I should start with, we've got a gym and mobility split for the lads. So with the gym this week and with the amount of game time, we're kind of just doing a full body kind of gym workout, just keeping them ticking over really. We're not going to get too much adaptations this week, so just trying to keep them ticking over. Pre-ab's the one where we're just trying to aid with recovery, make sure we don't lose any lads this week. That's the biggest aim. So GPS, they monitor, there's 1,000,001 different metrics we can look at, but the main ones we like to look at are, obviously we track total distance for each session, high speed running. So for the lads, we use a relative high-speed running, so it's relative to their own capabilities, for example. But that's usually above 6 meters per second. So we track, and that relates to hamstring health, posterior chain health, different things like that. We obviously look at their sprint distance as well. That's usually above 7.5 on average for our squad. So again, hamstring health, we make sure we hit enough of that during the week. So we're just making sure we don't overcook them, don't undercook them in terms of that. Other things we look at is percentage of max speed, the number of accels, decelerations, because that obviously relates to groin health, different things like that. So we're just trying to make sure no one's being undercooked, no one's being too overcooked, and having it on the live is really good, so we can pull certain individuals out. Some individuals at the end of the session, we wanted them to hit a certain number, they need a top up, so it's really good to have that data live. With all the planning we do, we can see it live and say, so we don't have to react when we go back in and download the data. It's a bit more live, and we can put players through what they need to do.
great for the boys to come away. You know, we've had a good training session this morning. Hopefully we'll get a good week training under our belt. We've got a couple of games ready to go back and try and make a mark, you know, and see if we can progress closer to the things that we want to achieve this season. To be fair, because you've been by and large with them for a couple of years now, they're pretty good as professionals in knowing what it's like to conduct themselves. You know, we've had a quick rise really. We jumped up to Academy 1 programmes, so that was hard, jumping the level that they did. So they're always tested. They were the youngest team. They got to the Youth Cup finals first years, so it was tough. They were always against it. Then they're jumping into the reserve league still as under 18 players really, so it's tough. It's seeing if we can get a little bit better in dominating games with the ball, handling the ball, even though we've jumped up again into probably the league above. You know, it's trying to get that in. You know, we want them to be able to do everything. They've proved through spirit and fitness and organisation that they can get results. We'd like to dominate the ball for longer periods and really ask a lot of questions to the opposition. You know, so that'll be the theme throughout the year really, to see if we can improve that part of our game.
While you're here, I always class it as like 1 day equals a month for a player, because you see all of like the habits that they have, so how they conduct themselves when they're walking around the hotel, how do they eat, who do they socialise with, how do they recover, how do they prepare, whereas normally obviously you only see them when they turn up at the training ground, whereas this you have the microscopes on them the whole time. So I think that them being here allows us as staff to have that magnifying glass on them, and also allows us to have a bit more contact time with them. So like yesterday, every player had a 10-minute chat with every member of staff, whether it be performance related or just on a personal level. So utilising the 24 hours in a day as best we possibly can while out here. So it's always an enjoyable trip. What we're trying to do in the week is preparing them for if they have an opportunity to go away with the first team. If they go to an overnight stay with the first team that they might play in a game, how do they conduct themselves around a hotel? How do they prepare themselves for a game, for training, for games, all that sort of stuff. But yeah, culturally, we took the boys on a bike ride for a recovery session, and we went round this, and they were just going, wow, I'm so happy we've come outside of the hotel, and like for them to sample like the culture of a different place. And obviously we don't speak the language, but they can see it and they can look at different elements of the town around it and going, oh, this is actually really nice. And some of those are never going to have those opportunities of going to Poland. Some of them never been on a plane, like you said before. Some of them never stayed away from their families for a week in a hotel, sampling different foods. It's all new experiences for some of the boys, and for the ones that aren't new experiences, that's the test then to see how do they then put into practice what they've already learned. So if it's the new boys, you see their eyes are wide open going, this is completely wow. And then the other boys are going, well, actually, no, this is how we conduct ourselves. So it's so beneficial. And also for us as staff, because sometimes we have some new staff that are coming in. How do we interact with staff? How do we socialise with staff? And then how do we utilise the hours that we have in the day so the players are getting a real holistic individual picture to improve them?
This morning's session we built on from something last week. So we did a workshop last week about starting right. We're here at pre-season, so really we're looking at the first 4 weeks and how you can get off to the right start, build the foundations and sort of set the tone for what the season could be. So today we reflected a little bit on that session of last week, where we looked at what's the most important aspects for them is that performance, recovery, social aspects, opportunities. So there was a few that we worked through last week. We reflected on that this morning, and then importantly, we moved the session on and spoke about like the code of conduct that we want them to have whilst they're here in Poland for the week. So that was elements of curfew. So letting the lads have autonomy, let them decide, do they want a curfew, do they feel like they need a curfew. For me, psychology is great in a classroom, but it's really about bridging the gap to the grass. I always want to get on the grass, and now we're out here, got training, and it's again about starting right. First session in Poland, what does that look like? All the lads would give you words like intensity, high work rate, but we want to see if the words mirror the behaviours. So importantly, I've been sharing my time between the 18s and 21s and seeing if we're seeing the behaviours we want on the pitch. Sometimes we don't, because of course, sometimes it's their first time coming to Poland, first time abroad, change in temperature. So we've got to expect that the lads sometimes will transition seamlessly, but then others it'll be a bit more clunky. And I'm here to have conversations and also just to observe as well. I've phrased the question of what would we like the hotel to say about us when we leave? So that's our idea of, we have humility, we're very respectful at home in the training facilities. We want to bring that over to Poland with us.
I think there's two parts. It's us as a team and it's each of them as individuals. So yesterday we spent 10 minutes with all of them going through the game against RB Leipzig, and we had selected 2 to 5 clips for each of them. Went through some stuff that they did really well or that we would like them to do better. And then we went through some of that again on the pitch today. In a few hours we've got a video session with the whole team looking at the game, where we try to put all the pieces of the puzzle together and look at how do we get better as a team, what can we expect from each other on the pitch. We've spent a lot of time so far this pre-season working on the collective, working on how do we play more like a team in possession, especially trying to take that next step. A lot of the stuff we did with individuals was about the technical stuff and their decision making. With the team we go through the framework, we talk about the principles, and we are trying to edge a little bit closer to the first team in our language and in what that looks like. So it's been some new stuff for the boys to take on board. We've split the pitch into 3, so we start, a lot of clubs do this as well, so there's no secrets. We start with building the attack, create the attack, finish the attack, and try to have some specific principles for the whole team through each of them. And the aim is that it'll improve the on-pitch communication and make everyone look like better footballers, because it's that predictability that makes football easy to play. When you know what your teammates are going to do in advance, you know where you can find your teammates, making good decisions becomes a lot easier. And that's where we're trying to get to.
Mainly packing it all and getting it all out here, and just remembering really what it is that needs to come out, because obviously you're packing for 2 different age groups and they need a lot of stuff. So for instance, like 120 bibs get used daily, 40 footballs, match kits, training kits, socks, GPS vests. It's just mainly making sure that everything sort of ticks off your to-do list and out here and on the plane, and as long as it gets here, you're all good. I suppose it's like a trial run really. You can sort of make sure that the training kits are out and all their sizes are perfect before we go into the season, because obviously once you're in the season there's not really much wiggle room sort of swapping and changing different things. So it gives you a chance to get stock in, printed as well. Obviously the match shirts take a lot of time to print and stuff. Sponsorship, you can whack the sort of sponsorships on, and it gives you a little bit of a head start pre-season, because although it's a really busy period, it does give you a sort of a head start season-wise, so it's a good thing, yeah.
James Claridge, centre-half. Yeah, it's been really good. We spent a few weeks back at the training ground just getting base fitness really, and then we started playing a few games recently just to build into that kind of match fitness and starting to work on like some of the tactical stuff that we've been looking at, different styles of play that we're going to look to play during the season. So it's been a really good start for us. Yeah, the sessions have been good, they've been tough. Obviously from a physical point of view, we've been looking at getting fitter and more resilient in the games to allow us to play for longer and the style of play that we want to play. And then just looking at more like the tactical stuff as well, because there's a few new lads and a few different things that the manager's wanting us to look at to try and implement to the next season. I think it's just seeing the physical improvements, coming away from the week in a good physical position, and then just really starting to think about how we're going to push on to the start of the season, which isn't too far away now, and yeah, getting a good start in the league.
I oversee all the care and wellbeing support for the players across the whole academy. What that means is that I work with the staff to make sure the environment that we're setting is person-centred and supports the individual needs of all our players. It means I work with players on an individual and group basis to support their personal development and wellbeing needs as well. So I run our life skills programme that helps them to learn the skills that they need off the pitch, and that's going to support them in the journey in professional football, but also the skills that they might need after football as well. I also take a bit of particular focus around various transition points that they go through as well. That might be things like when we sign a new player and they come into the club in the academy, making sure they are happy, settled, comfortable in the environment, know what they're doing, and also exit is a really important point as well, a transition point. So when we release the player, making sure we've got a really good aftercare programme for them so they feel supported through the process. So the things I'm looking for is essentially how they're managing themselves, how they're managing the schedule. Obviously it's quite busy on certain days for them, so what's their energy like, what's their interactions like with each other, what their interactions like with the staff as well, what they like when they take themselves away and they're on their own or they're within a group setting. Obviously looking for the ups and downs. What is the thing they're doing in their spare time that helps to grow them as a person? So what's the hobby, passion, interest, something that they do away from football that's going to grow them for the future. And then the third thing is how they're going to give back during the season to the community as well, which is something that we've really tried to push forward a little bit this season around what we're doing as an academy and as a club. How do we engage with the local community to give back a little bit, but also it can be a really good personal development experience for them as well at the same time. So the most important thing is building that relationship with the boys this week.
So for me, I think a successful pre-season is seeing the lads act in the way that they wish to and build a reputation and an impression that they'd be happy with. I always say that my job is helping them navigate their way through an academy system. That's going to have pressure, we've got games, that's going to be being a young professional, we've got the impression and the reputation that we want to uphold, and of course to be a young athlete nowadays is their sleep, their nutrition, so ensuring that actually we're developing the person and the player but in a very holistic manner for them.
I think all of us actually, as a staff, I think it's the 18s, we're a real close-knit staff anyway, but our focus is to make sure that we get the players back onto the plane in a better condition than what they were physically. Have they really implemented and have they had real deep learning from the football side of things? The social aspect of how have they socially interacted with each other, and I think it's not just a football-based thing, it's how have we covered the player as an individual and then how have we covered the group. But I think as long as we get back on the plane and everyone's taken on really good learning and putting that into practice in games or in the gym, I think that's the biggest thing for us as staff.